And if you have the time, you try to answer. Okay. Dear devotees, we thank you all for being here today. We are very much blessed. We have in our midst His Holiness DAYANANDA SWAMI Maharaj, who has been here before. It's been a while though, but he's been here before. And we're very much grateful and thankful that he could be with us today. Maharaj, this is your own home. Welcome to Hare Krishna Africa, daily Zoom classes. We speak Bhagavatam Monday through Friday every week around the same time. So we're very grateful to have Your Holiness with us today. And probably after the class, whereby we might have had a few more devotees than we are now, we'll do a little more formal introduction to the devotees. But for now, we may put the verse on the screen and you may start speaking. It is your class, so you handle it the way you want it to go. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
What time do we finish? Do we have a cut-off point, or is it a little bit flexible? Or?
Yeah, we are very flexible. It depends on your time and how long you want the class to run. Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'll just do the invocation. Right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 34. This chapter is called the Purusha Shukta Confirmed. So, I'll just recite the verse, and then if other devotees would like to try, you can do that. Abharati me angamrishopa lakshyate.
Abharati me angamrishopa lakshayate.
Abharati me angamrishopa lakshyate.
Nabharati me angamrishopa lakshyate.
Navai kvachin me manaso mrisha gatihi.
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 Name rishikani patantya satpate.
Name rishikani patanti asatpate.
Name rishikani patantya satpate.
Name rishikani patanti asatpate.
Yanme vido kantavyata rito hari.
Name reda utkantaya pata rito hari.
Yanme vido kantyavata rito hari.
Yanme reda utkantaya pata rito hari.
Abharti me angamashopa lakshate.
Abharati me angamrishopa lakshyate.
Navai kvachin me manaso mrisha gatihi.
Navai kvachin me manaso mrisha gatihi.
Name rishikani patantya satpate.
Name rishikani patanti asatpate.
Yame vido kantaya vatamrito hari.
Yanme redaut kantaya vata drito hari.
One more time. Abharti me angamrishopa lakshate.
Nabharte mengam risho palakshyate.
Navai Pachinme Manaso Mrishagatihi.
Navai kwachinme manaso mrisagatihi.
Name Vishikani Patancha Satpate.
Name rishi kadi patanti asatpate.
Yanme Vido Kanti Avatar Vito Hari.
Yanme ridaut kantyavata drito hari.
Anyone like to try?
Nabharati mengam risho palakshyate.
Abharti me anga mishopa lakshite.
Navai kwachinme manaso mrishagatihi.
Navai Pachinme Manaso Mrishagatihi.
Name risha kani patanti asatpate.
Name Vishikani Patancha Satpate.
Yanme ridaut kantyavata drito hari.
Name Vido Kanti Avatar Vito Hari. Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Bharati,
Bharati,
statements.
statements.
Me,
Me,
mine.
mine.
Anga,
Anga,
oh, sorry. Oh, Narad.
O Narada.
Mrisha,
Marisha,
untruth.
untruth.
Upalakshite,
Upalakshyate,
prove to be.
prove to be.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Vai,
Vai,
certainly.
certainly.
Vachit,
Kwachit,
at any time.
at any time.
Me,
Me,
mine.
mine.
Manasaha,
Manasaha,
of the mind.
of the mind.
Mrisha,
Marisha,
untruth.
untruth.
Gatihi,
Gatihi,
progress.
progress.
Na,
Na,
nor.
no.
Me,
Me,
mine.
mine.
Ishikani,
Hirishikani,
senses.
senses.
Patanti,
Patanti,
degrades.
degrades.
Asatpate,
Asatpate,
in temporary matter.
in temporary matter.
Yet,
Yet,
because.
because.
Me,
Me,
mine.
mine.
Rida,
Krida,
heart.
heart.
Outkantyavata,
Utkantyavata,
by great earnestness.
by great earnestness.
Dritaha,
Dritaha,
caught hold of.
caught hold of.
Narihi,
Hari,
Supreme Personality of God.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Translation. O Narad, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the process of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. In response, please. O Narad,
O Narada,
because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
because I've caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Hari,
Hari,
with great zeal,
with great zeal,
whatever I say has never proved to be false,
whatever I say has never proved to have been false,
nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred,
nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred,
nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter.
nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter.
Report by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai. Lord Brahma is the original speaker of Vedic wisdom to Narad, and Narad is the distributor of transcendental knowledge all over the world through his various disciples like Vyasadeva and others. The followers of Vedic wisdom accept the statements of Brahmaji as gospel truth, and transcendental knowledge is thus being distributed all over the world by the process of disciplic succession from time immemorial. Since the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma is the perfect liberated living being within the material world, and any sincere student of transcendental knowledge must accept the words and statements of Brahmaji as infallible. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down directly from the Supreme Lord into the heart of Brahma, and since he is the most perfect living being, Brahmaji is always correct to the letter. And this is because Lord Brahma is a great devotee of the Lord, who has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as the supreme truth. In the Brahma Samhita, which is compiled by Brahmaji, he repeats the aphorism, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. I am a worshipper of the original personality, Govinda, the primeval Lord. So whatever he says, whatever he thinks, and whatever he does, normally in his mood are to be accepted as truth because of his direct and very intimate connection with Govinda. The primeval Lord, Sri Govinda, who pleasingly accepts the loving transcendental service of his devotees, gives all protection to the words and actions of his devotees. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Kaunteya Pradijanihi. O son of Kunti, please declare it. The Lord asks Arjuna to declare. And why? Because sometimes the declaration of Govinda himself may seem contradictory to mundane creatures, but the mundane will never find any contradiction in the words of the Lord's devotees. The devotees are especially protected by the Lord so that they may remain infallible. Therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of their devotees who appears in disciplic succession. The devotees are always liberated, but that does not mean that they are impersonal. The Lord is a person eternally, and the devotees of the Lord the devotee of the Lord is also a person eternally. Because the devotee has his sense organs, even at the liberated stage, is therefore a person always. And because the devotee's service is accepted by the Lord in full reciprocation, the Lord is also a person in his complete spiritual embodiment. The devotee's senses, being engaged in the service of the Lord, never go astray under the attraction of false material enjoyment. The plans of the devotee never go in vain, and all this is due to the faithful attachment of the devotee for the service of the Lord. This is the standard of perfection and liberation. Anyone beginning from Brahmaji down to the human being is at once put on the path of liberation simply by his attachment in great earnestness for the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. The Lord affirms this in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Amchayo avivitrena bhakti yogena sevate sarvanan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Anyone therefore who is earnestly serious in heart and soul about being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service will always be infallible in words and action. The reason is that the Supreme Lord is absolute truth, and anything earnestly dovetailed with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality. On the other hand, any amount of mental speculation on the strength of material science and knowledge without any bona fide touch with the absolute truth is sure to be a mundane untruth, and failure simply due to not being in touch with the absolute truth. Such careless, unfaithful words and actions, however materially enriched, are never to be trusted. That is the purport of this important verse. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Omegan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Malitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Pastatyade Shatarine. I'll just repeat the translation. Oh, Narayan, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. So yeah, you can put it on full screen again now. Finish with it. Thank you. Yes, so this just an overview of the situation. We're in the second canto, and at the end of the first canto, Maharaj Parikshit asked very important questions about the duty of somebody who's about to die. And then in the beginning of the second canto, the answers start to come from Shukadev Goswami. And the first three chapters, he's talking on the platform of karma, jnana, and yoga. Because, most people, he's including everybody in the answer. Here's the processes that he outlines. But in the third of these chapters, he specifically mentions Bhakti Yoga. And he's so thorough with his explanation that this is the point where Parikshit Maharaj, accepts. He said, he contemplates for some time on the gravity of what's been spoken in those three chapters, and he starts to, offer prayers to the Lord. But before he offers prayers, he does a very important thing. He doesn't go straight to the pastimes of the Lord, or, he's thinking about the audience. And he starts with the creation, asking about how did we get here? And because most people are coming from that platform, if we meet a materialistic person, usually we do that when we're distributing books or some similar activity, then, they're actually tied up in this world, and they're trying to understand things from their point of view. And so this is the way Parikshit Maharaj is asking the questions. And it's not just a quick thing, because we'll find that this process is gone through in the second canto, and then again many times in the third canto. So it's emphasizing the need to really understand what a difficult situation we're in, and how it came about. Because unless we understand how it came about, it doesn't make sense. It's just like some words in the middle of nowhere. But if it's tied down to to the practical position in this world, then and people can start to understand. So this is what the Bhagavatam is doing in these two cantos. It's really grounding everybody in the gravity of the situation that we're finding ourselves in, and then we can start to speak of the process, how we can get out of that situation. So in the first three chapters, in other words, Shukadev Goswami explained that this is where we're at, and this is how we get out, by Bhakti Yoga. But now he's having to elaborate on that. It's a conversation. When we're speaking, we don't start going into great detail. People think, what are you talking about? You have to explain the thing in general, and then they get a picture, and then you start filling in all the questions and the gaps so that the picture becomes full. So that's the Bhagavatam. And then in the 4th chapter, we start talking about, the process of creation. And the 5th chapter, how the elements are created. Right up, this is all they call the saga. Saga means primary creation. This creation's coming from Mahavishnu and Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. And they create everything necessary for the creation of life and activity within the universe, right up to the planetary systems are put into place. And that's where the 5th chapter ends, that the 7 upper planetary systems, the 7 lower planetary systems. So now the house is built. And so now, how does Brahma create? And so that's the secondary creation, Visharga. And here, it's explained how from the different parts of the universe, different things are actually manifested. And so they relate the universe to an imaginary form of the Lord, an imaginary form of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is the one who's providing all the elements in the universe. And then it's explained in an allegorical way, or in such a way that different things are coming from different parts of that universal form, which actually doesn't exist. But this is another way that it's being preached, because, I remember I was walking home once from with one of my friends, and, we were talking about, we didn't talk about it very often, but somehow we got talking about, where does everything come from? I mean, he looked up at the sky, and it was a clear sky, and there were stars everywhere. He says, we're in the body of a big man, he said a big bloke. Does anybody know what a bloke means? It's like a slang word for a man. He says, we're in the body of a big bloke. I said, what are you talking about? Well, I see we're right. This is what's actually happening. And so this is the universal form. So this is something which we can actually, recognize. And so then it goes on all the way through the 6th chapter, explaining this point, how from his mouth comes, certain things, from his eyes come certain things, from his different parts of the body. So many things, so many elements are created. And that's where we get into now, in this 34th verse, where, Brahma's finished speaking in that way, and he's just reassuring Narada Muni. Now he says that, that because I'm actually taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead very, very carefully, very securely, then actually everything works out, because everything's connected. And Prabhupada said that. He said we should hang on to the lotus feet of the Lord very tightly, and everything will be okay. That's yoga. Yoga means to link everything with its origin. And when it's linked with its origin, it becomes sat. It becomes truth. When we see it in any other way, it's asat. It's not actually truth. It's actually an illusion. It's not complete. And so therefore, everything we actually speak about in that respect, it becomes actually useless knowledge. It's asat. And therefore, this is the point that Brahma is making, because I'm actually connected, everything is actually truth. We might say that, well, just a minute, does Brahma make mistakes? Like Prabhupada make mistakes. He sometimes would be going through a particular class, and he'd say, what is that? And then one of his disciples actually fill in the gap, he'd forgotten a sloka, or he couldn't complete the sloka. And so, in that respect, is that, to err is human, and it seems like Krishna is using his devotees, said that it's okay to make, these grammatical mistakes and human mistakes. But the thing is that we're connected, and everything will be resolved in due course of time. I was thinking about the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, actually. The Bhagavad Gita is actually finished in 16 chapters. Divine and demoniac natures is the 16th. And it says that, Shastra Vedi Mushricha Bhatati Kama Karata Na Sasirim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Paramgatim. But if we don't follow Shastra, then Na Sukham Na Paramgatim. Na Sasirim, there's no perfection in life. Sukham, there's no happiness, and there's no Paramgatim, there's no achievement of the goal of life. Therefore, the concluding verse says, Tasma, therefore, one should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulation of the Shastra, and then go forward in life. So everything's complete, we follow Shastra. But then in the 17th chapter, Arjuna asks a question. He's just, some things fall in between the cracks no matter how much we try to actually make a complete arrangement. But so it's the same with the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, that people can misunderstand, or people can be talking to people who are, especially in this age, who don't fit into the usual pattern. We can't say that we're, strictly any particular varna or any particular ashram. And so he asks for people, he says, what about a person who doesn't follow Shastra, but follows a process very strictly? And then, Lord Krishna starts to answer it very carefully in a very philosophical way. He says, it's like this. He says that whatever he's doing, he's making up in his own mind. And when the mind focuses on something, then it becomes very deep-rooted and one gets an affection for it. And this is like what we say, he puts his heart into it. We often wonder what's the difference between the heart and the mind. Because, Prabhupada uses the heart and the mind. It sits synonymously sometimes. But it's really the chitta, the consciousness. So the consciousness actually focuses on something, and when it becomes concentrated, it comes from thinking, then it comes feeling. We get a feeling, and then are willing to actually act on it. So this is a function of the chitta, of the consciousness. He says, and when it's not connected with Shastra, then that thought, it'll be under the three modes of material nature. The heart will become affected under three modes of material nature. So the faith that he has and the process he follows will be a material activity. And then he starts giving examples of conditioned activities through the 17th chapter. And finally comes to say that, it's a complete waste of time. Om Tat Sat. Remember how it finishes, the 17th chapter. Om Tat Sat. Everything, that means everything should be connected with Krishna. Everything should be connected with the absolute truth. And so this is the point we've just, back to what Lord Brahma is saying here, that, from the other angle, he's actually connecting everything with Krishna. So there's no fault. So it's infallible in that respect, because it comes from the infallible source. And when even the infallible of this world, we're all infallible soldiers, right? Because why? We're not infallible at all, are we? We're not fallible. We're infallible, but we think we're fallible. And so that's the process of devotional service. And therefore it says, we can understand we're actually achieving perfection when nothing bothers us in this world. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. We're actually fixed not on the mental speculation platform where we're anchoring on anything and, but we're actually fixed in devotional service. And whatever happens, we just keep performing devotional service. And so many things are going on around us. But, we're actually fixed in knowledge. So this is where Lord Brahma's at. Mam chayo avyavitrena bhakti yogena sevate. Sargunan samatichetam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That if we want to engage in full devotional service and doesn't fall down at any point, he transcends the modes of material nature and is situated in Brahman, or real Brahman. Real Brahman means devotional service. So this is called, I think everybody's read the, the Nectar of Instruction. This is the first point that Prabhupada makes, or in Ishopanishads as well. In the Ishopanishads, Prabhupada gave a lecture right at the beginning, which forms the introduction, at Conway Hall in London. It's when the original 6 devotees came from USA, Shyamasundar, Mukunda, Gurudas, Malati, Yamuna, and Janaki. And they when they invited Prabhupada a little later, they organized some lectures for him at this Conway Hall. And the first thing he started lecturing on was the Ishopanishads. And he started with this introduction. And the first thing he started mentioning was about the defects of material knowledge, about, the 4 defects: mistakes, illusion, mistakes, illusion, cheating, and imperfect senses. So anyway, so the process is that we don't have to be boffins. If there are any boffins out there, anybody who's like, just really like studying Shastra, 8 hours a day. Maybe there is, but usually for us it's quite an endeavor to study Shastra. But Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't matter. He said everything's dependent on the attitude of the devotee. Does anybody know that verse in the seed verses? It says, Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Pridipurvakam Yadadibadi Yogam Tam Yenam Amapayantate. Krishna's saying, even if we're not very intelligent to understand the books or understand the philosophy, he says, if we're actually serious, if serious means we do things, the duty at least, and more serious means that we come to the point of actually trying to please Krishna, Pridipurvakam. And if we're pleasing Krishna, then Krishna reveals that knowledge from within the heart. Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sanivishto. He's the source of knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, all living entities in the universe are being guided throughout the universe, throughout different lifetimes and different experiences. So, the key is that Krishna's there, and the process of devotional service means appreciating that and always trying to actually perform service in such a way that it satisfies the Supreme Lord. And this is what Lord Brahma did. In the beginning, he went through the same process we're going. And sometimes in devotional service, we think, why is it there's so much, rules and regulations? But Brahma set the example right at the beginning. He didn't have any ingredients. He didn't know where to go. He was completely in the dark. And then he heard the word tapa. First of all, show some seriousness. How serious are you to actually find the truth? And so Krishna gave him the intelligence to understand what tapa meant. And he started to perform the tapasya for 1,000 years as a demigod. And after 1,000 years, he was actually, he actually got the darshan of Lord Vishnu. He said, shook hands with him. Well done, Lord Brahma. And then he gave him all the information how to create little by little. So, you know, it's a painstaking process. But that's the way it is. If we're going to actually rid the heart of our attachments, then, you know, we have to actually go through the process. There's no short, well, there is a shortcut actually. The shortcut is Krishna in the heart. Otherwise, we'll never do it. This is the process of the Gyanis and the Yogis. But because Krishna's there, there's always some inspiration and some guidance and some revelation. And when we actually start to, you know, function on that platform, you know, we're on a safe platform. We're reciprocating with Krishna. And it's not always that everything's so straightforward. There's so many tests in devotional service. You know, before Brahma could actually imbibe all this knowledge that he's just told, Narada, he went through so many difficulties. When he was creating, I think we all know, he created from a shadow of his body, he created some homosexuals, I think it was. Or sloth was created from his shadow, then he created some homosexuals, and, you know, he had to run for his life. So, and then he threw off that body, he became contaminated. Then later on, he became so infatuated with his daughter, he started to run after his daughter. He was affected by the material energy, even though he was serious. And then he was checked by his sons. And then he actually gave up that body and started again. Actually gave up that consciousness. That's what giving up the body meant. So test, yeah. Are we qualified? So, you know, you qualify somebody, but not by lip service, is it? It's not by lip service, it's by practical deeds. And then we start to, you know, become realized. We cannot perform devotional, we cannot go back to Godhead by theory. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that it's the realized soul who's actually in the proper position. He says theoretical knowledge is one thing. He says, but it's realized knowledge, which is actually knowledge. Otherwise, we're just actually accepting something with tongue in cheek. It sounds okay, so I'll accept it. But when we actually practice devotional service, it doesn't just sound okay, we know it's okay. It becomes a fact. Yeah. And then we can come to the point of, as we reciprocate in that way with Krishna in a positive way, even undergoing difficulty. Does anybody know that verse from the 10th canto? We undergo all kinds of difficulty, but we still carry on hearing and chanting. And when we do that, then we guaranteed pure devotional service. Because what happens by that process is that Krishna gradually becomes revealed through the activities, through his, you know, we go through some test and we find that Krishna's there. We find that Krishna's helping. It didn't appear like that in the beginning, but he is. And then our faith increases. And then, you know, Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, this is the way forward. He is in the concluding chapter, 18th chapter. After he establishes that, you know, bhakti, devotional service, is the way towards him, he says that Chetasa Sarvakarmani, Maya Sanyashamatpara, Buddhi Yogams Upashricha, Machita Satsambhava. He's saying that in all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. It sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, that's all we have to do. We make an endeavor and just depend on Krishna. We don't become attached. In all activities, depend on me. You don't be attached to the result. Work always under my protection. Don't be fearful about performing any service for Krishna. Don't be fearful of being a failure. Just do the service. And in all activities, work always and be fully conscious of me. And so, we can see why a devotee is peaceful. It's just like when we're a young child, we've got the father there all the time. And we don't care how many bullies we may meet, that, they don't bother us anymore. Because we've got the protection of the father. So a devotee is peaceful. And this is backed up by the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya says that, what's that verse? Krishna Bhakta Nishkam Ataiva Shanta. Krishna Bhakta, a devotee of Krishna, Nishkam, he has no desires. Ataiva Shanta, therefore is peaceful. He's working on this platform of always being in Krishna's protection and remembering Krishna. Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakala Ashanta. But, if we're attached either to karma, gyan, and yoga, then we won't find peace. So if you want to be peaceful, don't have any material desires. Ultimately, this is what it's saying. And so Brahmaji is well practiced in this, and therefore he's attained that platform where, that whatever he actually tries to do, because he's actually doing it for the right reason, Krishna ensures that, there'll be that it won't be wrong. It won't be wrong. There's injunction in the Shastras, isn't there, that the words of a Brahman are never actually defeated. What he says has to be. So, this is a Vaishnava Brahman, ultimately. That, Krishna has so much, not affection so much, but, he wants a devotee to be respected. And so, therefore, he ensures that the devotee is actually, if the devotee is serious, that is, and is following properly, that the devotee is never in an embarrassing situation. I've got a few things here. I'll read that purport to that verse in Bhagavad Gita, just to give you an idea of how it works. Sarakamani. Just purports by Prabhupada, help us to understand it even better. This is a purport to 1857. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world, just like a servant. One should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The Sanskrit word matpara is very important in this verse. It indicates that one has no goal in life save and except acting in Krishna consciousness just to satisfy Krishna. And while working in that way, one should think of Krishna only. I have been appointed to discharge this particular duty by Krishna. While acting in such a way, one naturally has to think of Krishna. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. One should, however, note that after doing something whimsically, he should not offer the result to the Supreme Lord. That sort of duty is not in the devotional service of Krishna consciousness. One should act according to the order of Krishna. This is a very important point. That order of Krishna comes through disciplic succession from a bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master's order should be taken as the prime duty of life. If one gets a bona fide spiritual master and acts according to his direction, then one's perfection of life in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed. Okay, so yeah, we were talking about tests. There's some nice examples of tests in the Bhagavatam. That's what the Bhagavatam is there for, to give us practical, application of the Bhagavad Gita, how by the lives of Krishna's devotees. And anybody think of any tests? Any devotees who were tested in the Bhagavatam? I was thinking of Bali Maharaj. He ostensibly, he wasn't a devotee, but inside he was, And this was proven when, it was tested that, he made a promise as a Kshatriya to a Brahmin, which was Vamanadev. And his spiritual master Shukadev and Shukracharya, he was actually, a materialistic spiritual master. He was thinking that this is Vishnu who he's promising everything to. If he gives everything to Vishnu, there'll be nothing left for me. That's ultimately what I was thinking. It was like a materialistic Brahmin. And so he said, don't do it. He says, there's certain situations where you don't have to fulfill your promise. But, Bali Maharaj thought about it for some time, and he had a lot to lose. We read the Bhagavatam, and it's just like we turn the page and read it, and we don't. Sometimes it's hard to understand just what exactly is happening. He's had a lifetime of being in the association of the demons. He's just fought, fought many battles against them, even lost his life. And then he was brought back to life again by Shukracharya. Then he was empowered. Then they came and fought the demigods again. And now they're performing sacrifices so they can keep the heavenly planets. And so he's done a lot of hard work, and he's prepared to give all that up just to keep his promise to Vamanadev. And so Vamanadev, so he refuses to take the instruction of Shukracharya, and he gives Vamanadev 3 paces of land, and Vamanadev takes away everything. And he even, on the 3rd step, he said, where shall I put this? I've just covered all the universe. And he said, well, you can put it on my head. In other words, I can be for the 3rd step. And you would think that would be sufficient for proving that he's actually sincere. But no, he then has Bali Maharaj wrapped in the snakes of Varuna, in the ropes of Varuna, and sent down to the Sutala planet. So, we shouldn't be surprised if there's challenges in devotional service. Because, if we actually apply ourselves to them, we'll afterwards we'll be able to see the mercy of Krishna, how it's actually made us a better devotee, a stronger devotee. So in the material world, they say, no pain, no gain, is that right? But don't worry, devotional service is not all pain. It's actually, even though we're actually making that sacrifice, the sacrifice itself is actually blissful. we feel satisfied in doing that. You know, a typical example of our devotees tested even in modern times when Prabhupada was writing the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. He was actually a little bit disturbed that the devotees weren't printing them fast enough, and he was writing them more quickly than they could print, and so he challenged them. Rameshwar, he was on a morning walk, and the book printers were there, the heads of the printing press, and he just said to Rameshwar, he says, you know, I don't feel encouraged to write. He says, it's not going fast enough. And, you know, they gave some idea how it could be, you know, they could sort of, you know, increase by, you know, maybe even 100% or 50% at least. And, you know, that was quite a surrender. And Prabhupada says, no, I want all these Chaitanya is doing in 2 months. And Rameshwar said, that's impossible. And Prabhupada turned around and said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And then all the other who were on the morning watch just looked at Rameshwar and said, see? And he knew they had to actually do it. He had to find a way of actually printing all these books. And, you know, by Krishna's mercy, by following that instruction, he did it. Maybe at the end of this class, we can have some examples how other devotees here have felt the tests of spiritual life sometimes, how we've you know, gone forward by going through them. What about Arjuna? You know, he was actually put into a testing situation to fight the Battle of Kurukshetra. And then after the Battle of Kurukshetra, he brought Ashvatthama before the Pandavas, and Krishna said, kill him. Bhima said, kill him. Kunti said, save him. Yudhishthira agreed, the twins agreed. And so, you know, he was bewildered. And then Krishna gave him a clue. It was tested. It says in the purport that by Prabhupada that he was testing his intelligence, testing his discrimination, like that. Yes, so we're talking about coming to the stage which Lord Brahma is at, where his words are infallible. And when we come, the point about going through these tests is that we get so much faith that we just completely absorb ourselves in devotional service. And when we're completely absorbed like that, then, you know, everything we do is actually perfect. It's like Brahma's words to Narada Muni. Well, an hour's gone by, it's 8 o'clock. So I'll stop there. And if anybody has any comments or have any questions, we can try to give some answers or like that.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj. Well, very beautiful Krishna Katha, and lots of references from the different scriptures. So, dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations, you may unmute and you speak. All right, when you are talking about devotees who were tested, I was also thinking of Namachari Haridas Thakur, how he was tested by the prostitute.
Yeah.
And he overcame that test.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yes. And you made references to Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, where the text itself we read today, which is 2:634. If I may put it back here on the screen, so I ask my question. This is Lord Brahma speaking to his son, Narada. O Narada, because I've caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. So the understanding here I'm getting is that when one is surrendered to the Supreme Lord and his love for the Supreme Lord is with great zeal. I think this is also a very important word, with great zeal. Then whatever he says will never be proven false. And in my early days in devotional service, I used to think that because the spiritual master is a direct representative of the Supreme Lord, the spiritual master does not err. Like you said, to err is human. And we also hear that one should not consider the spiritual master to be ordinary man or ordinary human. So to err is human, and the spiritual master should not be considered to be an ordinary human being. And therefore, because such spiritual master is dedicated to serving the Lord with great zeal, whatever he says cannot be proven false. But we live in this material world, and the spiritual master may say something materially, not spiritually, which may not be true. And in that case, do we say that such a spiritual master is not surrendered to the Supreme Lord with great zeal? Which I doubt that is not the case, but I would like to have your explanation or description of what Sri Narada, Lord Brahma is speaking to Narada in this particular text. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it depends. I mean, spiritual master means that there's not necessarily every spiritual master is exactly the same or on the same platform as another. There are actually, param gurus, acharyas, and he says Prabhupada does say we should take initiation from somebody who's an Uttama Adhikari ultimately. He says, but there's, the Madhyam can also initiate, and even the Kanista, but we have to be careful that if we do that, we can only advance as far as they are. So he says it's better to take initiation from the Uttama Adhikari. And the description of the Uttama Adhikari is that he's completely absorbed in the service of the Lord. He doesn't criticize anybody. He's just thinking, all he's doing is thinking of ways to spread Krishna consciousness. So if we're taking initiation from such a spiritual master, then he won't actually be on a platform of saying anything material. But if we take initiation from, somebody who's not on that platform, there may be some slip-ups, they may actually get caught up in illusion if they're not careful, which we've seen happen. So a devotee has to be very, very discriminatory, not fault-finding, but he's always reading Shastra, associating with devotees, and sincerely chanting and practicing. And then, by that process, he'll be able to see if there's some anomaly in any instruction that's given, and then he can inquire in a proper way and clear up that misinformation. This is what Bali Maharaj did. Due to his experience, he could understand that, you know, everything was meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. And therefore, when he was given the instruction by Shukracharya, even though it was actually wrapped in so many reasons, he could avoid giving the charity. He could understand that he was wrong, and he didn't follow that path. So a bona fide spiritual master, as Prabhupada puts it, he'll never actually deviate from, you know, speaking about the absolute truth. And even if we, you know, we use material examples, so that shouldn't be seen as being speaking materially. Like if you're speaking to somebody who's interested in a certain subject, in order to actually, you know, keep on the same level as that person and reciprocate with him and give some spiritual knowledge, we have to talk on that platform, but the goal is to actually bring it to Krishna consciousness. So even though a devotee may appear to be talking materially, it depends what it, you know, usually it's for a reason. Like Prabhupada, he spoke to Graham Hill. I don't know whether anybody remembers Graham Hill. He was in the 1960s. He was the world racing car, Formula One racing car champion. Is everybody still there?
Yes, Maharaj, we're here.
Well, everything went still. I just wondered whether it had froze. He was a world champion racing, Formula One racing car champion. And when he came, you know, when he met him, he obviously, well, not obviously, but he was looking under the bonnet of a car. And so Prabhupada put his head under the bonnet and he started talking about the car and the carburetor and everything. You know, and Graham Hill were really happy about that. And he was explaining things to Prabhupada. But he didn't mean to say that Prabhupada was in Maya, you know. After some time, you know, he brought the conversation round to Graham Hill eventually said, what do you do? And then Prabhupada, you know, he started speaking about spiritual life. So I think everybody understands that point anyway, but I just thought I'd add that. Yeah, the devotee has to take responsibility for himself to make sure that, you know, he can actually discriminate between correct knowledge and incorrect knowledge. And that's why we have Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, you know, as well as the spiritual master, there are other sadhus also. And of course, the Shastra.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. But I think I have a follow-up question from the beautiful answer you gave to my question. It is true, as you said, that there are different categories of spiritual masters. Obviously, yes, there are different categories. And if the spiritual master is not like Uttama, then one may not be able to be elevated to the highest level. This understanding has led and continues to lead some devotees within ISKCON to feel that present day gurus may not be Uttama, so they're looking for an Uttama somewhere else other than ISKCON. But my understanding is that if we all do accept that Srila Prabhupada is an Uttama, he's a Param Guru, he's a Jagat Guru, and we're all following his instructions and teachings in his movement. And therefore, if today I take Diksha from a guru who may not be Uttama, but as long as he, that particular guru, is following the instructions and the guidance of Srila Prabhupada, he may not be Uttama. But if I follow his teachings as he is giving me, which was what was given by Srila Prabhupada, there is the possibility of me attaining the highest perfection. And therefore, the statement that if one is not an Uttama Adhikari, if one is not like Jagat Guru, one may not be able to take the disciple to the highest platform, needs a little bit of clarification. If you may try to do that for us, Maharaj.
Yeah, this is a good point, and I'm glad you brought it up, otherwise it can create misunderstanding. Yeah, this point's brought up in the nectar of instruction, and Prabhupada says that you should be careful to take an initiation from an Uttama Adhikari. And you see, it's not just Srila Prabhupada, yeah, he's a Param Guru of ISKCON, he's the Shiksha Guru for everybody within the movement. So we can always take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And that's a cross-check with our spiritual master and also the Shastra. So if we follow that line, then we won't be misled. This is the point I'm making, is that if we inquire, if we actually, follow, if we are following properly, we'll be able to see when something's amiss. And even if there is something amiss, there's also other devotees. So ISKCON is like a family. It's like a bundle of sticks. There's so many different gurus and so many reference points that we don't have to become bewildered by one particular instruction. So that's my thoughts on it. And yeah, Prabhupada's the ultimate. If somebody's following Prabhupada properly, even though he may not be, this is what Prabhupada says himself, actually. He says, the postman delivers the letter, and the spiritual master's like that. So if he's actually not deviating, then we'll get the real thing. But the thing is, if the spiritual master is on a lower platform, his realization won't be as great as it needs to be in order to actually get the full realization that the disciple needs. So what would happen there is that if the spiritual master is actually a spiritual master, he'll be able to recognize that, and he'll speak to his disciple and say, why don't you take shelter of so-and-so also? He can help you in this particular way. And that's our disciplic succession, actually. That, a bona fide spiritual master is interested in his disciple actually going back to Godhead. And if he needs input from somewhere else, he'll gladly send that devotee there. It's just like in our disciplic succession, there was Jagannath Das Babaji. He wasn't the actual Diksha Guru of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. It was Vipina Bihari, I think. Well, because, Jagannath Das Babaji was actually a superior Vaishnava, and he was actually getting more instructions from Jagannath Das Babaji, then our disciplic succession is considered to have gone through that way. So there's also that to take into consideration, that even then they didn't have an ISKCON movement, but that process was involved. And it's not that he rejected, well, I don't know exactly what happened, but there was a disagreement But as far as I can understand, there was no rejection of Vipin. It was a different understanding of the philosophy on a certain point. So yeah, there's no need to go anywhere else. We've got everything. We've got Prabhupada ultimately. We've got the books. We've got so many different spiritual masters, so many different authorities in devotional service. And if we actually inquire, then the aggregate of the instructions we get, we can take as being the truth. We can get the proper understanding in that way. And also, from another point of view, we may not always get the answers for the questions that we ask. There's many a times we read Shastra and different, Acharyas said different things about the same subject. And nobody, the Prabhupada doesn't say one's right or one's wrong. He says they have different realizations and different moods in devotional service, that's all. So there are things which a devotee has to actually say, well, I can't actually solve this particular question now, but I have enough faith to carry on, with the realization I've had. I'll give you an example. I was in one temple, it was in Manchester, and the temple president's wife was very philosophical, and she came across a Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastrikai, Lava Mata Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhai, which means that a moment's association with a pure devotee can give one complete perfection. And she was thinking, wait a minute, what can you achieve in a moment? In Bhagavatam, it's a moment, so I think it's 1/11th of a second. And so she was getting really, really confused about this and asking all different people, all different devotees, senior devotees were coming through explaining it in one way, but she couldn't accept any of them. And it started to get me thinking as well, what does it mean? And then one day I was listening to a Prabhupada lecture, and, somebody asked exactly the same question. And, how is it that we can actually achieve perfection by a moment's association with a pure devotee? And Prabhupada said, it's like this. He said that there's wet grass and dry grass. He says, if you try to set fire to wet grass, it'll take a long time. And you might not even do it. He says, but if you strike a match to dry grass, it'll burst into flames straight away. He says, so if the inquirer is actually serious and the guru is actually potent and fixed up, then immediately there's a result. So that wouldn't, that was explained, and we're going off the subject a little bit, but that was explained in a completely different way to what I was actually looking for the answer. I was thinking about time, and Prabhupada was thinking about the practical side of it. Anyway, so yeah, we have to be a little bit patient that, Rome wasn't built in a day. What's your thoughts?
Well, I of course, Maharaj, who am I? I'm nobody, but what you shared makes a lot of sense to me. That one needs to be discriminatory, which is also a recommendation from the scriptures themselves. But I've always been with this mindset that because gurus within ISKCON are not doing anything independent of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, even though we are not direct disciples of Srila Prabhupada, but we are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Every ISKCON devotee is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada till time indefinite. And because Srila Prabhupada is Param Guru, if our present acharyas, teachers, are teaching us exactly what Srila Prabhupada gave us, then they themselves, while they themselves may not be Uttama, but because the line they are connecting us to is such a supreme line, we may all be eligible to go back to God. And of course, that depends on individually what we do with the teachings given to us. But I had a question which is in the same line where in the Bhagavatam it is said repetitively by so many different acharyas that Shukadev Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit on the banks of Ganga, and that was the understanding. That's what everybody believed it was, all the way until Sridhar Swami, the original commentator of the Bhagavatam, came in and he said it was actually not at the banks of Ganga, but at the banks of Yamuna. So here we may see like a difference in these great devotees telling us the same story, but where it took place is different. So I know you said something in regards to that when you were answering my question. So when one hears this, then how do we correlate that to what Lord Brahma is speaking to his son, that whatever is said is never been false? Because, of course, Yamuna and Ganga are two different rivers, even though they are all very divine. But there are two different divine entities.
Well, I've never heard that it was spoken on the banks of the Yamuna, so I'll accept your, if Sridhar Swami says it was, then I'll accept that. But
yeah, we read that in, I don't remember the chapter, but it's in Canto 1, because now we're trying to read the Bhagavatam in chronological order. So now we are on 2.6.34. But somewhere in the past, we read this where Srila Prabhupada, usually he will say what the Acharya said and will not take sides. But Srila Prabhupada took sides with Sridhar Swami, that yes, what Sridhar Swami is saying makes perfect sense because of the geographical location of the description. So, I mean, like I said, personally, such things do not make me think of someone being higher or greater than the other. It's just perspective of the different acharyas. But if someone else does not think that way and just follow what Lord Brahma is saying to Narada Muni here and comes across 2-3 great acharyas talking about the same thing and giving a different description, then it may cause some sort of questioning in the hearts of the seeker, which I don't think is necessary, but it could. That's why I asked this question. But thank you for the answers, Maharaj.
okay, thank you.
If anyone else has a question, comment, please, you may do so before Maharaj leaves. Maharaj, are you in London?
No, I'm in Georgia, in the Middle East.
Oh, you are in, okay. So His Holiness Dayananda Swami Maharaj is a disciple of His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. I'm sorry, Maharaj. He's a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. I said Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, he is my guru. And whenever I think of my guru, I think of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Whenever I think of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, I think of my guru because they are like one soul in two bodies. They are very, very close. And I was with Maharaja in Gitanagri during the last days of his life here, and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was the constant companion and caretaker of him. So Maharaj is a disciple of Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and Maharaj has been a very amazing book distributor all his life in devotional service. And I understand, Maharaj, you were in the Bhaktivedanta manor. I don't know if you're still there, but Maharaj preaches mostly, of course, all the world, everywhere, but mostly in the East Europe. So we hear where Maharaj is at the moment. So Maharaj, we can't thank you enough for your service, your dedication to book distribution, which is one of the main pillars of Srila Prabhupada's movement. And that's all I may share about Maharaj to you, dear devotees. So Maharaj, if you want to add something to what I shared about you, you may do so. And also, if possible, if you have a little bit of time, if you can share with us your strategy to distributing Srila Prabhupada's books so that some of us may be able to learn from your strategies and also attempt to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Well, first of all, it says Hare Krishna Africa. It doesn't mention your name. I saw it.
Oh, yes. My name is Sahadev Das.
Sahadev. Okay, Sahadev.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. Strategy. I mean, there's the standard strategy of having a book table or one-to-one distribution. So that's what we do in Georgia anyway. I also preach in England, in Manchester. It seems to be going well with a book table. If you have some kirtan ears, nice harmonium, and you're chanting the Maha mantra and the book table, then it seems to help the distribution like anything. And I think with that model, then more people will actually take up the gauntlet of going out, because they're not actually directly having to challenge, not challenge, but try and stop somebody. And because actually, they said that the most fearful thing in society is public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so book distribution is not exactly public speaking. It might be even worse, actually, for anybody who's not done it before. If you've got to walk up to a stranger and stop him and then try and sell him a book, most people, they're too busy to even think, about buying a book. So it's a real test. And so, if they can come to a situation where they don't have to do that, or not straight away, then it increases the fall of book distributors. And, it gradually, it becomes more of more of a norm. What tends to be the worst thing you can do is not do any book distributing. And, if new people come, and then after a while you start to do it, and then you'll never get them to do it. They've got used to doing service in a certain way. But the strategy is that as soon as they're actually a little bit interested, is to start speaking about book distribution, the need to preach, the need to try distribute knowledge, and that becomes devotional life. Accept it. That was my experience anyway. I came to them with a book distributor in charge of Well, actually, it was a house, and what he did, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, try while the iron's hot. As soon as somebody starts to take up the process, and try and make it available to a wider group of devotees through book tables, things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. Dear devotees, if no one has something to ask, then we may humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to His Holiness Dayananda Swami Maharaj being here and showering us with His wisdom and love. And Maharaj will humbly request that, if possible, we can have your association more and more in the near future. At least once in a month will be something very wonderful, if possible. Thank you.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj. And even though we are all struggling devotees, but we pray to their lordships and the parampara that this world as it is today has been very horrible, very dangerous. There is chaos everywhere, and especially with what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, and you are around that region. So we pray to their lordships for your safety and all the safety of the devotees around the area, and of course around the world. So, dear devotees, please, we humbly requesting you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation. Jai.
I can chant
Hare
it.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarayascha,
His Holiness Dayananda Swami Maharaj ki Jai.
Prabhupada ki Jai.